Software engineering job openings hit a 5-year low. I've heard this article was becoming a little bit more popular. It's right up our alley, so definitely going to check this one out. So let's dive in. Hi, this is Gergely with a bonus issue of Pragmatic Engineer newsletter. In every issue, I cover topics related to big tech and startups through the lens of engineering managers and senior engineers. This article is an excerpt from the last week's The Pulse issue. Full subscribers received the below details 7 days ago. To get articles like this in your inbox, subscribe here. All right, cool. Before we start, despite the below stats, the tech market is not all gloom and doom. This week, we covered pockets of the tech industry that are seeking more demand than before in the issue State of the Startup and Scale-Up Hiring Markets, as seen by recruiters. Interesting data from job site Indeed shows the change in the number of active software engineer job listings on the site. For context, Indeed is the largest job aggregator portal of the U.S. and in several countries, and it crawls vacancies on other sites too. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. This means that Indeed aims to track most of the posted jobs across a given region, crawling and processing them, not just the ones companies pay to post on Indeed. The overall picture looks pretty grim right now. Since February 2020, Indeed has shared aggregated statistics on the number of active jobs listings, taking January 2020 to be 100% as a reference. Okay. So we got the peak. So essentially what I've kind of noticed and been hearing is jobs are kind of, I guess, we'll see if this article gets to it, but essentially jobs are kind of back to normal in terms of hiring rates before COVID. It does look like the graph starts off a little bit higher, so it's a little bit off, but I do feel like a lot of the lack of jobs is more along the lines of just at the entry level significantly, where it's just kind of returning to normal numbers pre-COVID, and you have software engineers that might have had a bit more experience that have been laid off that are also looking for jobs in the market, but generally they're getting picked up unless they're like really screwing up the job search. They're getting picked up usually within like 6 months or so. So I don't know. It feels like there's been a huge burst of new developers, like a huge burst of new developers. And I'm not saying everyone, but a large chunk, just honestly really bad developers who just they were lied to, and they were convinced that they could, just get a big bump in their paycheck and spend 6 months to a year and become a software engineer. There are a lot of people like that, just tried becoming a software engineer. And I'm seeing a lot of those people give up where they weren't that serious about it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. So that's where my perspective is. That's where my bias is. It seems like they're starting off a little bit higher here, but let's go ahead and continue reading. This is what I've seen personally, though. So facts about software developer jobs on Indeed. 65% of the number of vacancies in January 2020, a 35% decrease. 3.5 fewer vacancies in the mid 2022 peak year. 8% down on 1 year ago. Indeed tracks international job markets too. Canada has virtually the same graph as the US. Things are different in the UK, France, and Germany. So I would say primarily try to track US, but this is interesting. Trends look similar across the world. Australia's growth in software engineer positions is eye-catching because it's higher, and it's the only country where the number of jobs listed is not lower than in 2020. Section 174, the accounting change effective from 2023, mandating software engineering costs to be more amortized over 5 years is most likely to result in fewer software developer jobs in the U.S., as we have previously analyzed. The drop in jobs somewhat lines up with when this change became effective. However, Section 174 only impacts U.S. and U.S. headquarter companies. Its impact would only be visible from early 2024. The drop since 2020 can in no way be attributed to it. I actually didn't keep track of that. So 174 did go through. So correct me if I'm wrong. Was it not stalled in the Senate? I don't think that went through. I think it just passed in the House. Why is this brought up? This reads like it's been implemented. So essentially, how I understand 174, to simplify it, and feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but a lot of companies, if you do hire software engineers, you essentially can't write them off for like a full 5 years, meaning you could only write off a portion of the first year, second year, third year. And if you needed to hire a bunch of software engineers to build an app quickly, you kind of have to spread that out over 5 years. So I don't think this passed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but why is this included? Section 174 changes also do not explain why countries in the UK and France see a similar drop in job postings. This suggests that although Section 174 changes in the US surely have an impact, this accounting rule is not the main driver of this drop. I don't think this was passed. That's weird. Maybe I'm misinformed. I kind of just did a quick lookup because I'm like, I should have heard about that. I don't think it was passed. Anyways, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think this is irrelevant. Like, this is big if it gets implemented, but is it not irrelevant right now? It's going to have extremely minor impact without, I don't know if it's going to spook a couple companies, but without it actually going into effect, I don't think it's going to have much of an effect in the US. Okay, we'll keep going. Comparison with other industries. What about the number of total jobs in other industries? The data. Across Indeed, 10% more jobs are listed today in February 2025 than were in February 2025. There are 35% fewer listings for software developers. Let's dig a little bit deeper into which other industries are also experiencing a drop. Banking, marketing, sales is pretty flat. Okay. The change in the number of listings in 2025 compared to 2020 for each of these areas. Hospitality and tourism openings are also down by 18%. Overall, software developer jobs have seen the biggest boom and bust in vacancies. No other segment saw hiring more than double in 2020. Only banking came close. At the same time, hiring has fallen faster in software development in the last 2 to 3 years than anyone else, or anywhere else. Yeah, companies are spooked, or they're cautious. They're very cautious. They had a lot of money to play with, hired a lot of people, try to push out a product, and also look for additional funding. Because, I mean, like, there are a lot of VCs that love for companies to hire big and go quickly to get an investment on their return as quickly as possible. But I don't really know the VC world too much, but it does feel like VCs aren't looking for like a 5 to 10 year plan of your company in terms of like reaching profitability. They want it to happen very quickly. Yeah, so companies are more cautious. This is true. And software engineer jobs really spiked given that everyone was home alone. Or not even just alone, but home, online, spending additional funds given by the government to spend even more. And it really kind of temporarily boosted the economy. And I don't even think it gave companies a false sense of confidence. I think they just took advantage of the revenue increase. A lot of companies are going to do that and then lay off as needed. So, which areas have grown since 2020? Several sectors saw job listings go up significantly. Okay, construction went up 25% compared to 5 years ago. Accounting went up 24%. Electrical engineering went up 20%. All jobs went up by 10. That's interesting. Why have software dev job vacancies dropped? The numbers don't lie. Job listings for devs have plummeted. There's a few potential reasons why. Interest rate changes explain most of the drop. The end of the 0% interest rates is a mega trend that affects many things across the economy since 2022. Yep, including hiring, the steep fall in VC funding, and how many tech startups survive, thrive, or die. How many... There was a big debt relief fund pushed with the Biden administration, right? I'm guessing like it was kind of like a variable rate, and I'm guessing if that significantly hiked, because I've seen a lot of companies accept that loan. What was it, like a payment forgiveness, or not a payment forgiveness loan? It was like wasn't it like a loan to focus on payroll to keep your staff? Oh, man. I gotta look that up probably after this. But essentially, I wonder how many companies actually took... So you essentially had, I think, low variable or loose restriction loans handed out to businesses to help them kind of survive during COVID. And I'm wondering if all those interest rates were variable and they got hiked up. That'd be really bad. But I know even like I was offered something like that too. And there's no way in hell I was going to take something like that. But that's probably, I do remember that specific loan. I wonder how companies are doing with it right now. But it doesn't explain why high profitability big tech companies like Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, or Google have slowed down their hiring or their large layoffs in recent years at tech's biggest workplaces. The tech sector seems to react to sudden events with more intensity than any other industry. That's fair. There's no other industry that started to hire in the frenzy that the tech industry did in 2022, and then no other industry cut back hiring in 2024, 2025. Let's compare with the industry that had the second largest hiring boom during COVID, banking and finance. The job posting slowdown could partially be explained by how more tech companies hired during the pandemic era boom, and that companies are well staffed thanks to that boom. Of course, we cannot deny that developer jobs, as well as banking jobs, are underperforming compared to job listings across the economy. Okay. So what? Just like a bunch of people going into a bunch of debt, trying to survive. You need banking and financing to process the increased revenue going through banks. Through dishing out loans and payments for those loans, I'm guessing. Gen AI impact, yay or nay? We know firsthand that coding is an area in which large language models are really helpful. That's another conversation. Indeed, would it be so surprising if coding goes on to become the single best area of all that LLMs thrive in? The discipline looks tailor-made for it. Programming languages are simpler than human languages. Okay. More high-quality training materials available for coding than any other domain in the form of well-written source code that's correct and works as expected. Much of this thanks to open source. I mean, that's a double-edged sword with the AI being trained on a lot of shitty open source. I don't think that's the... I don't know. Like, if you could curate the open source projects that LLMs are trained on, sure. But because you can't, I don't know about that. Coding solves hallucinations mostly. One of the biggest problems with LLMs is frequent hallucination. However, by using these for coding, devs spot and fix hallucinations immediately, dismissing incorrect autocomplete suggestions. They don't always. No, not. There are a lot of people leaning on AI way too hard that don't catch. There's little stuff that kind of gets introduced into code bases. Bugs just pop up later. Okay. Compiling code and running it against automated tests weeds out another big chunk of hallucination, and this step can also be automated. So the automated tests that humans create are there to correct shitty AI code. Why use AI? No other industry has workers immediately able to spot hallucinations and automated tools to catch them. Hey, what? Like, if I think of bookkeeping, all right, I got to do taxes. If I think of bookkeeping, like, AI can aggregate a bunch of my credit card statements and transactions and verify that I'm entering it correctly in my bookkeeping software. As workers immediately able to spot hallucinations. So that has nothing to do with, never mind. That has nothing to do with what that statement is. Let me revise that. No other industry has workers immediately able to spot hallucinations. I think like, just like a software engineer, you know, if you are a bookkeeper, if you're an accountant, do you not double enter? Do you not verify what's been entered the first time, at least? You're still going through the process of catching these errors. Why wouldn't you do this with AI generated records? I don't understand. I don't know if I agree with this. What do you mean no other industry has workers immediately able to spot hallucinations and automated tools to catch them? I don't think this is true at all. No wonder LLMs are being adopted faster by developers for day-to-day work than within any other industry. I don't think that's true at all. AI tool penetration is massive across developers. Last year, about 75% of engineers said they use some AI coding tooling in our survey. That worries me. Wow, this article is depressing to read. 75%? We're going to push out so much shitty code into the software engineering industry. That genuinely worries me. Could tech companies be hiring less thanks to anticipating productivity boosts that Gen AI tools can bring for existing engineers? Okay, I got another article I'm going to read about that. I don't really buy this logic. Oh, okay. But I can see how several companies could do a wait and see approach, which a lot of companies are kind of doing, slowing down hiring or even pausing while they gather more data. I don't think the slowing down is due to trying to integrate AI into developers' workflows. I think the slowing down is due to, like you said, the high interest rates, people just not having enough money to spend, and companies just receiving less revenue in general. I think that's why. I don't think most companies are waiting to see if like AI is going to make their engineers like 10x engineers or some other bullshit like that. I don't think that's a thing. That's not what I've been hearing. It's more of just how the economy is doing. Perception that engineering is no longer a bottleneck could be a reason for low hiring. As covered in January, Salesforce will keep software engineering headcount flat because it's seen a 30% productivity gain from AI tools. Okay. Salesforce is an interest in, well, 30, just to be clear, are we talking about 30% productivity gain from AI tools among software engineers only? But a large piece of Salesforce software engineers are working with the low-code solutions, are they not? You're going to have people building those low-code platforms and tools within Salesforce, but a lot of, like, I guess, what do you mean by software engineering? Because I've seen people put software engineering when they were kind of just doing low-code stuff at Salesforce. Like, a lot of people. So people like that don't really depend on AI solving any deep, complex problems across a very large code base and needing a bunch of context to solve more complex problems, like people that are kind of just doing low-code stuff are seeing a bit of a boost in their productivity, who already kind of like heavily lean on what's inherently kind of like automated and not really software engineering is kind of like a low code solution. Are they seeing a 30% productivity gain from AI tools? I'm not going to read the entire article linked, but this is where I wish these words were very, very clear and a little bit of elaboration of like how 30%. I guess I could read the article. I'm not going to go into it. This video is going to be large enough, but these are just things that I'm thinking of. And I'd be curious how. Maybe I'll look into it at some point. Salesforce has an interest in making AI productivity sound compelling because it sells an AI offering called Agentforce, and the company can afford to hire 1,000 additional salespeople to sell its new products it's built. Okay. This suggests there's substance in the reported productivity gain. Salesforce might be building software faster than it can sell it. Playing the devil's advocate, this also raises the possibility that Salesforce isn't building the right products. Very true. If it needs to hire more agents to sell its products, despite already having a strong distribution network and partnerships. Okay. So essentially, it could be building... Am I reading this right? The expectation is Salesforce already has like a really strong distribution network and partnerships, and you would expect that if AI was creating quality products, it would be easier to sell and you wouldn't need as many salespeople for it. I don't think that would apply if the issue is that there are just too many products being pushed out and you need more salespeople for it. I think the reason matters. Still too many engineers after over-recruitment in 2021, 2022. The period was the hottest tech jobs market of all time, and companies hired at a record pace. In 2023, widespread layoffs followed. Sluggish hiring today could be an indicator that companies still have enough excess hires from 2022. This is true. Perhaps some companies feel they hired too quickly before and are going slower now. This is also true. These are just two things that I'm kind of hearing from hiring managers. Are smaller teams more efficient? The two companies below hire slowly and have small engineering teams. Linear, 25 engineers. More than 10,000 companies use their product, including OpenAI, Retool, RAM. Linear deliberately hires very slowly, and it seems to be working so far. We cover more on this in a podcast episode with Linear's first engineering manager and a look inside its engineering culture. Blue Sky, 13 engineers. The social media startup crossed 30 million users with a surprisingly small team. Like Linear, Blue Sky is growing slowly. Is it still growing? I don't think the user base is growing. And is incredibly efficient. Their web, iOS, and Android app runs from the same code base and was originally built by a single developer. Could we be approaching the point at which building products is similar or simpler to do for one or two engineers, not because of LLMs, but how languages like TypeScript allow working across the back end and front end, using Node on the back end and React Native on the front end? What does that have to do? What? So I feel like we're kind of combining some things. So I guess the author's not implying that, like, it's pretty clear. There's a clarification that it's not necessarily because of LLMs, but I think the author for here is kind of just talking about excessive hiring and slow hiring. But I mean, like, why does the introduction of TypeScript change things? Because we're talking about like the last 5 years, right? JavaScript with Node has been out for much longer. You didn't need TypeScript. So if you're trying to explain a pattern within the last 5 years, I don't think this argument holds any water. This has been true for a very long time. LLMs make onboarding to different stacks easier than ever. Explain how. Outside of like what courses or tutorials will do for you. I don't think this holds much water at all if we're trying to explain the pattern over the past 5 years. Consider how Indeed job postings will not be fully accurate data. There's a fair chance that Indeed is becoming less popular as a destination to post jobs. especially software engineering jobs, and that Indeed is either not crawling or banned from crawling them. Okay. For example, Indeed lists a total of 663 jobs for Microsoft. However, Microsoft has more than 1,000 jobs just with the words of software in them listed. I also struggle to find several startup jobs advertised on sites like Work Startup, the job board for Y Combinator companies listed on Indeed. Or Workata Startup? What kind of name is that? I suspect that Indeed's data should be directionally correct, and there are indeed fewer developer job listings than before. Okay, so it's kind of like we're focusing a little bit more on the ratio, and it's illustrating a pattern, and that pattern is probably correct. But I don't think this data is representative enough of startup hiring. This is true, and it probably doesn't track big tech hiring all that well either. I think you're probably right about this. Anyways, Indeed is just a job board. I just want to illustrate this. Indeed is one job board. Like, you can, if you want to use an LLM to give you a list of job boards. But job boards are literally just advertisement for job postings. You go to the company website directly and you apply there. They're literally just, you can sign up on like several different job boards and look every single day and apply as quickly as possible to jobs that you're actually qualified for that line up with you. Because those job postings fill up with resumes very quickly. The sooner you apply, the better. But you're using it as an advertisement to then go to the company website, and you don't really know the recruiter's bias and what job boards they're going to prefer and what job boards, like, they've had good experiences with candidates and bad experiences with candidates. Some recruiters might check a job board once every 2 weeks because it hasn't really produced much results and it's not really worth the time. So again, use it as an advertisement, go to the company website directly, apply there. If you can't apply directly on the company website, then you go back to the job board and apply there. Okay. What's next? Data shows that in 2023, the number of software engineers dropped for the first time in 20 years, fueled by layoffs. Okay, it's predicted that the growth in tech industry is likely to be low this year and most certainly well below growth between 2011 and 2021 growth. I see a few possibilities. It's predicted. Okay. Tell me why. This is interesting to me. Why? Small engineering teams get more productive. This is optimistic outlook where LLMs add a big boost to both individual and team productivity, which leads to more engineering teams being spun up across the industry. More startups could be founded and traditional companies could bring development in-house. Okay. The industry stagnates, shrinks in this pessimistic outlook, even as software becomes cheaper to produce with fewer engineers needed. Companies produce the same software, but with fewer people. This also assumes entrepreneurs will not jump at the opportunity to build their ideas more efficiently. And what's cheaper? Okay, I have a lot of thoughts I'm going to share. How far are we into this article? Okay, we got a little bit to go. I cannot see the scenario of the shrinking industry playing out. Not with good software missing from so many parts of the world and building better software being a big business opportunity in many other industries. What did I just read? Building better software being a big business opportunity in many other what? Okay, whatever. Essentially, optimism. Let's talk about optimism. More products produced in a shorter amount of time is what I think what teams are seeing is a lower quality of code that we expected to have at this point being produced by AI, creating a bunch of shitty products, a bunch of shitty quality code, where now software engineers need to maintain it and scale it and grow it past the limitations of AI. So it can create opportunities in that respect. I think there are several opportunities for LLMs to create and expand software engineering teams until you don't get a program like Devin being more of a nuisance than it's actually worth to try to operate and try to mentor and maintain. I'm not seeing the quality of software being produced. I'm seeing quantity being produced, but kind of to the extent that like a lot of like indie hackers will just push out a bunch of shitty stuff and don't really work on quality of code, and then maintainability is a nightmare, but that isn't the goal. The goal is essentially to sell the company and not really have to build and scale a code base 5 to 10 years in the future. And I think we're going to see more of that with AI as well, where a bunch of shitty software is being produced, and then whatever company does buy it out, whether it's like, there are several reasons why a company would buy it out or individual would buy it out, but let's just say that person, that individual, or that company wanted to integrate that product into their suite of products, or they wanted to turn that company into something. They saw potential with it. I think there's going to be an opportunity to hire software engineers to manage and scale that shitty ass code. So there are opportunities that come from LLMs being so bad right now, which is awesome. I don't see anytime soon the quality of code being produced in any scalable way to like truly contribute to software engineering teams that are building like real professional products in established companies. I don't see the code. I just don't see AI like contributing towards the productivity and the speed of software engineers in any significant way anytime soon. And a lot of software engineers that are leaning too heavily on AI doing this, and maybe it's just from pressure, probably from pressure from product or CEOs or leadership or whoever, saying we need to get this out faster, utilize AI. Like a lot of software engineers are just becoming shitty themselves with just outsourcing their critical thinking, outsourcing their problem solving ability to AI, outsourcing even just like syntax that constantly gets reinforced over and over and over and over when you actually type it out and not copy and paste it. Software engineers are becoming worse for it. And we're going to... I don't know how that's going to affect things, but there are software engineers that are starting to speak up about this stuff, which is awesome. But I just like, there's kind of been this dream, mainly of like product managers and marketing and people who like don't want to pay software engineers money to do stuff anymore. Like there's been this dream to like really increase productivity for software engineers so you don't have to pay as many software engineers to push out products and maintain them and scale them and, make money. And I think that dream has kind of been squashed. And I'm not saying it won't ever exist at some point, but man, are LLMs really bad at making software engineering teams good, at making individual software engineers good long term. And we're starting to see negative effects of this. And I don't know. I would like to see where we are in 6 months to a year and see the adoption rate of companies and the trust of using AI and integrating it into your systems, which is another whole other thing that companies are going to have a really hard time trusting. But if you really want to utilize something like Devin, but just, not the intern Devin that can't really get much of anything done, but like you really want to utilize software like that, you have to put trust in it to connect to a lot of your systems. And there is so much distrust for AI at the moment. And, there are many reasons for that. I think there's something kind of unsettling with a lot of people with AI, but part of the reason also is you have companies like OpenAI gatekeeping, and called OpenAI, but actually gatekeeping with a pricing model. And companies just don't trust other companies that are trying to gatekeep this kind of technology. And until we start seeing a lot more open models being pushed out and free and available to everyone, where we can actually examine this and what is going on, I just think there's going to be a big issue of trust. And AI is going to be very limited in the integration in a lot of these companies to make significant changes to software engineering teams, where we're going to be hiring less software engineers because it's going to make these other software engineers like 10x engineers. I don't see that happening now. I don't see that happening in the near future. So it's not just the development of better models that take in more context, that operate well on cheaper hardware that is affordable to even companies. I think it's like there are many different hoops that companies are going to have to go through to start really trusting bringing these models into their engineering teams and implementing them in any significant way. Unless it's with companies that are kind of developing their own models, I think that changes things a little bit. But I don't see a lot of companies doing that. LLMs make software development more accessible for non-developers. An explosion of startups offering English to working app services. Offering software development services to non-developers on a budget has always been good business. LLMs could now make democratizing software development a reality. This is the pivot Replit has made, and it's an angel for fast growth AI startups like Lovable and Bolt. I mean, this already exists. I don't think we need to appeal to people who are trying to do this. I mean, CMSs have existed for a long time. Site builders have existed for a long time. And most things people like that want to build don't require complexity. This has already been solved already. AI, I don't think, is going to solve anything significant with that anytime soon. That hasn't been solved. Low-code software has come quite a bit of a ways. It's utilized by some companies, but that it's never had a major impact on like really just destroying a ton of developer opportunities and jobs. From what I've seen, you just have companies and people that didn't or probably weren't really going to spend a lot of money on coding and software engineering in general, or they were just going to hire a ton of cheap labor anyways to, spit something low quality out to just get something up and in front of customers. Like these kind of people don't really care about quality code. They never did. And they didn't really like this idea that AI is going to be now this, brand new tool that gives people like this a new opportunity that they didn't have is not true. They've always had this opportunity. Software by non-developers creates more opportunities for devs. Imagine a situation where the number of non-developers creating software increases by 10x or 100x due to AI. Thanks to non-technical people creating software with AI tools and agents, those projects which succeed, make money, will have a budget to spend on better development. And this is what I see. Yes. And we'll have a motivation to do so. Yes, this is a big thing. And this is good for software engineers. This could boost demand for developers and jobs for taking over AI-generated code, fixing it up, and improving it. This could be a boon for developers with entrepreneurial mindsets. No, you just mean this could really benefit entrepreneurs who don't really care to be developers. I'm sure that LLMs are a leading cause of the fall in software development job postings. There's uncertainty at large companies about whether to hire as fast as previously, given the productivity hype around AI tooling, and businesses are opting to wait and see by slowing down recruitment as a result. I don't think it's AI causing that. Startups are finding that smaller teams are working fine. This is another thing, though. This has nothing to do with this is less to do with AI, more to do with like, honestly, there are bugs with X for sure, but Elon really, I mean, X is a big enough company where Elon took a risk of, laying out a lot of people at X and kind of just running things bare bones with a much smaller payroll. And when he did that, other companies are like, oh, well, if Elon can do that, we can do that. So I saw that pattern happening. I think this has less to do with AI and more to do with Elon just being insane and working his workers to the bare bones and kind of being successful with it. I think X is still kind of buggy, but it's working. And you would have expected a company like that to need a ton of software engineers to manage it. And Elon showed that no, you don't. So less to do with AI, more to do with kind of just like a bold move that affected the culture. As Linear and Blue Sky are doing, and to avoid the hyperscaling approach of hiring first and asking what the new workers will actually do later, I just don't think this has to do much with LLMs. I think we're integrating this too often in this article, and I think there are other variables to consider. Big tech will hire slowly or slower than before, and I don't see startups speeding up hiring. What's missing is an answer to the question, how much new software will be created by non-developers using AI tools for which a lot more developers will be needed to grow and maintain those new solutions. So this author sees this as the escape. The big question is, and I think like the big push is, let's build a lot of tools that allow AI to create software for entrepreneurs, a lot of shitty software that, gives that CEO a little bit more confidence that there is proof in the market that this app, can exist and succeed and thrive. And then let's bring on software engineers. This has always been a thing, though. And I think there are actually going to be more frustrations with using AI to create a bunch of apps that are going to be buggy versus more polished low-code solutions that have been in the industry for longer. I don't know what this is going to create. But this has always been a thing. Low-code solutions have always been a thing and can create most of anything at a very fundamental level to just test the waters of that market. I don't think AI brings anything significant to that. I think it's really just trying to bring those interest rates down. And I mean, yeah, it's just trying to improve the economy in general. I don't in terms of software engineering, you're going to have some larger FANG companies that are testing the waters with AI, but I think this is far and few between. I don't think most companies are doing this. And I think it needs to have kind of a homegrown model that is tailored for that company internally. I think the trust isn't there to bring other models into the company, especially if they're going to be gatekept and they're not going to be open source. I don't think AI is having much of an effect except kind of making software engineers become worse at their jobs. So I don't know how much water this article holds, but I'm sure maybe I would change my mind if I dug into some of the articles. So here's kind of my opinion about the state of things. I kind of already explained a lot of it as we were going along, but I'm just going to sum it up real quickly. I do think that companies are a little bit more scared to hire now. They're more cautious, and that there's a lot of variables to that. But it doesn't mean this won't raise. It just means that companies are going to be more. We're not going to see this again anytime soon. We're just not. We're not going to see a big burst in being overzealous with hiring a bunch of software engineers to produce products. I don't think you're going to get as much VC funding and extra funding with that kind of stuff. with those kind of bold moves anymore. Not to the extent that we saw like 2021 to 2022. That was huge. And I think it just kind of like screwed up our compass, or our sense of, sense of direction with where the market was going with software engineering in general, because we saw this very abnormal spike that's probably not going to happen again in our lifetimes. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but we'll see. But this is extremely abnormal. And so we had a ton of people trying to become a software engineer as, the market was getting better, and people questioned their jobs during the pandemic and certain policies that were enforced. And like, I don't want to do this. Obviously my job isn't a priority. And, some people are just like, you know what, with something serious like this happening, maybe I want to rethink about what I want to do for the rest of my life. And am I doing what I'm kind of interested in? Or basically, do I hate my job? Do I want to stop going to a job that I hate? And I think a lot of people faced that reality, and it was a very tough reality. But a lot of people chose software engineering because they were told they could get a job within 6 months, within a year, and most people could do this and make a bunch of money, like start off with like $100K salary and move up from there. And you were lied to. I don't know what to tell you. But a lot of people were just doing it for a change in lifestyle and money, and they didn't really enjoy coding. There are a lot of software engineers that didn't really, or a lot of aspiring developers that don't really enjoy the aha moments, and they get frustrated. They're not excited to wake up and work on projects. They're not really, their head just isn't in the game with this. And it has to be, you have to love this thing, because it's probably going to take you years to become a software engineer. And you thought you could just do this little like 6-month sprint. You can't. And so a lot of these people are just quitting. So what we're seeing is a lot of experienced developers, if you're not terrible with the job search, they're getting scooped up within about 6 months, maybe 8 months at this point. Like if you're good, it's much sooner. But if you're kind of average, I would say about 6 months. And then so they're kind of getting a lot of like the mid-level roles and up, maybe some junior roles, but a lot of entry-level developers that other aspiring developers have been competing with. A lot of entry-level developers are just quitting. They're finally giving up. They're finally moving on, or going into different areas in tech too, because they're realizing the software engineering position isn't this get-rich-quick scheme. It just isn't. And so they're giving up, and you want to be careful, because a lot of those people are just bitter. And they're all on Reddit, by the way. But they're just bitter at everyone around them, and other people trying to become software engineers are the type of people that basically failed at their dreams, and now they're telling everyone else, like, this is reality. If you expect to get a job in 2025, no one is hiring. Like, those are those types of people that are just sore because they just try to make a quick buck, or they weren't that into it, or their habits sucked. They relied on motivation. They relied on their emotions to act on things. They didn't really have the grit to, spend years trying to become a software engineer, or either grit or interest. They lacked probably both. But I just want you guys to be very careful. You have so many different assumptions and guesses with the market. And I love articles like this that do provide data like this. But even when we see some of this data, I think there's a lot of variables that aren't really accounted for. And I wouldn't take any single individual seriously in the software engineering world when they provide projections of even how they think 2025 is going to go, 2026 is going to go. What's going to happen with AI? Is AI going to take all of our jobs, or is it going to just boost developers? Like, we don't fucking know. None of us know. And if you learn anything from all of these random ass assumptions that all of us software engineers have, or content creators have, it's just take what we say with a grain of salt. Even articles with numbers lack extra context and variables that are going to make their projections accurate. These are all just fucking guesses. If you like software engineering, if you like coding, you actually really enjoy it, you're like, I want to become a software engineer, no matter how long it takes. Like, this industry is going to be here for you for a very, very long time. And if you don't, then life is too short to not aim for something that you actually would enjoy. You're spending what, like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week minimum, just throwing your life away towards a job that you hate. That's depressing. And if you kind of feel stuck and you want something a little bit different, start thinking about like how you can start aligning some of your interests. It doesn't have to be passion, but at least some of your interests and enjoyments, and try different stuff and see if you do get those aha moments seeking out positions like that. I think, like, if anything, the pandemic should have taught us that life is short, and crazy things can happen that can drastically affect things, including the economy and your job and your job security. And job security is pretty much an illusion, right? You aren't owed that job. You just aren't. That's not today's world. Expect to be fired from your job at some point. But if you actually enjoy the industry that you're pursuing, industry security in general, for a lot of different industries, as long as you're willing to be open-minded as that industry changes, is real. That industry security is real. As long as you're willing to be open-minded, potentially adopt technology into that industry, there is industry security. So please just find whatever you think that you enjoy and kind of explore that. And if it's not software engineering, that's okay. But anyways, that's the article. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, I'm going to be, for the next article that I react to, I'm going to be diving into apparently what AI is doing to software engineers, and possibly even stripping away some of the skill level of software engineers. So we'll look into that next. All right, take care.